Acid attacks have been on the rise over the past year or two, much lower rates than we had back in 2017, 2018, when they were very much prominent in the media and very much on the rise. Since then, there was a decline, but there now seems to be an uptick or an upswing, which of course is very worrying. I was equally disturbed at the location, which is a school in West London, and by the age of the people that appear to have been targeted or involved in this attack. What we do have in the United Kingdom is slightly different in terms of acid attacks that occur in other parts of the world. So traditionally around the world, acid attacks tend to be something that's done by men towards women. Whereas here in the UK, the vast majority of the acid attacks that we've seen and that we've experienced here tend to be men against men. And that situates it very much within the context of violence, sometimes robbery, violence, sometimes acquisitive crime or gang violence. So acid attacks by men against women do occur, quite often as a form of relationship breakdown or domestic violence. So I'm not saying they don't occur here, it's just that they are slightly less common. My experience tells me that acid attacks are largely, if not almost exclusively, targeted by one individual against another or a couple of individuals. It's unfortunate by the nature of throwing acid or any kind of corrosive substance is that it splashes and people who are around or in the proximity of the target also get injured. It's always been part of the weaponry, if you like to use that term, or the repertoire, to give it another term, of people with criminal intent, those who feel aggrieved, those who want to seek revenge, those who want to take violent action against somebody else. But it is a particularly despicable weapon to choose. I'm certainly hoping we don't see a repeat of 2017, 2018, which we could even call the summer of acid attacks. It was really quite dreadful. Something in the paper and the media on a regular, almost daily basis. So I certainly hope we don't return to that. But given the fact many of these are targeted and not random, the public can perhaps take some solace in that fact. So if you attack somebody with a knife, you really have to get very close to them. And of course, if they have a larger knife than you, then it's a problem. The issue with acid is that if you throw it at somebody, and let's say, for sake of argument, they are carrying a knife, then they will drop the knife and they'll cover their face, which leaves them prone. So therefore, you gain an advantage in any altercation. However, the sentences a few years ago were raised significantly for carrying acid and throwing acid. So it's not only a dangerous act to perpetrate, it's going to be treated very seriously by the courts, and you will get a very heavy, serious sentence for it. The sheer frequency and volume of acid attacks that had been on the rise since about 2010 reached their peak in 2017, 2018. And many of the incidents were high profile, throwing acid over Deliveroo drivers in East London. There was an acid attack in a nightclub that splashed and injured many people, many ambulances attending. So some quite dramatic and high profile events. And it generated a lot of publicity, a lot of media stories, a lot of coverage on radio and television, and generated questions in Parliament. And as a result of that, the government fast-tracked some responses to that, which included restricting sales and restricting access, clarifying definitions around legislation, but also harder and harsher punishments and sentences, and perhaps quite rightly so. One of the challenges about acid and corrosive liquids is that they are ubiquitous. They are used in many, many forms of manufacturing and production, and they're just widely available. And that's part of the problem, is that there is such easy access to these, well, what may eventually become weapons. Also, in terms of how they're carried, how they present, quite often odorless, quite often you could not tell if it was in a bottle or a water bottle or not. You quite often don't really know what's in there. So it can be easily disguised, easily portable, easily carried, and easily thrown. And that's the problem. The way to tackle this is to work with young people, work with youth workers, and really develop a conversation that makes people realize how absolutely uncivilized and obnoxious this kind of crime is, and the devastating effects it has on people, and sometimes also upon the people who are throwing it. We saw just last year a man who threw acid over a woman and two younger children, and of course it splashed back on him and disfigured him. So that can also easily happen. It's not a weapon that's easy to regulate or use, and it's quite unpredictable.